Let's be real. You're in a friendly conversation, explaining your reasoning or sharing a plan. You feel good, but then you glance at the INTJ across from you, and they've gone quiet. An intense, unsettling quiet. What's happening in there? Are they impressed? Listening intently? Nope. Here's the secret. They're silently, meticulously deconstructing every logical flaw in your argument. Every unsupported assumption, every leap of faith, every gaping plot hole in your narrative. And their respect for you might be hanging by a rather thin thread. In this deep dive, we're pulling back the curtain on what INTJ are secretly judging you for. This isn't because they're malicious. It's how their minds are wired. They see the world through a lens of logic, efficiency, and authenticity that most people don't realize exists. They're like human background fact-checkers, running algorithms on everything you say and do. So, if you've ever felt that silent, penetrating stare, get ready to find out what's really going on. Illogical storytelling. Ever tell an INTJ a story that jumps from A to D, skipping B and C? They'll nod politely, but inside, their brain is having a system crash. They're not being rude. They're silently tabulating every missing premise and logical leap. They crave coherence and a clear narrative arc. If your story has more holes than Swiss cheese, their respect for your ability to organize thoughts is probably doing a slow-motion dive. They're mentally re-editing your story just to make it make sense. Meetings that could have been emails. For an INTJ, a pointless meeting isn't just an annoyance. It's a personal affront to their very being. The second the agenda loops back on itself, their efficiency-driven mind is already drafting the one-sentence email summary of the entire charade. They are meticulously calculating the hourly wage being burned, multiplied by every person in the room, and silently screaming at the waste of collective potential. They see time as a precious, non-renewable resource, and watching it evaporate is maddening. Fake agreement. Saying, "Sure, sounds good," while your body language screams the opposite is a neon sign of inconsistency to an INTJ. They have an uncanny ability to spot incongruity between words and actions. They notice the subtle eye roll or the barely perceptible sigh. To them, it's not diplomacy, it's a lack of authenticity. When authenticity takes a hit, trust drops. They'd much rather you voice your concerns up front than offer a flimsy, "yes, you don't mean." Blind rule worship. Quoting policy without asking why that policy exists. Following a tradition just because that's how we've always done it. For an INTJ, this signals a lack of critical thinking. They are natural system builders who dissect rules to understand their purpose and efficiency. If a rule doesn't serve a logical purpose, they see no reason to adhere to it. They're not anti-rules. They're anti-illogical, outdated, or inefficient rules, and they'll judge you for not bothering to know the difference. Emotional ultimatums. When decisions hinge purely on vibes or hunches, an INTJ quietly files you under "proceed at your own risk." To them, "I feel it in my gut" is not a data point, it's the absence of data. While they understand emotions, they believe crucial decisions should be based on logic and evidence. They're not dismissing your feelings, they just don't see them as a valid argument for a course of action. They're already calculating the various ways your gut feeling could lead to disaster. Plateau Pride. Boasting that you haven't read a book since college or bragging about how you never change? For an INTJ, that's a celebration of intellectual stagnation. They are lifelong learners, constantly seeking to expand their knowledge and refine their skills. When someone expresses pride in their own complacency, it signals a fundamental difference in values. They see it as a wasted opportunity, and they'll make a mental note that you've opted out of the journey of continuous improvement. If any of those secretly hit a little too close to home, congratulations, you're human. And if you want more no-fluff psychology, smash that subscribe button. Then, drop a comment below and tell us which judgment you've caught yourself making, or which one you know an INTJ has made about you. Small talk loops. Crazy weather we're having, huh? Recycling the same tired opener signals a profound lack of curiosity to an INTJ. It's like a broken record. They'll answer politely, but mentally, they've already teleported somewhere more interesting. They appreciate genuine inquiry and conversations that actually go somewhere. Repetitive small talk feels like a waste of mental bandwidth and a barrier to real connection. Overpromising, under-delivering. Saying, "I'll send it tonight," only for tonight to become a week later, is a miniature betrayal of trust. For an INTJ, reliability is paramount. Do it once, they might give you the benefit of the doubt. Do it twice, and you've installed a flashing red flag in their mental landscape. They see it as a lack of competence or a disregard for their time. They'd much rather you be honest about what you can realistically achieve. Bandwagon jargon. Using buzzwords you can't define is the linguistic equivalent of intellectual cosplay for an INTJ. They value precision in language and genuine understanding. When you toss around terms like synergy or paradigm shift without comprehending their meaning, it screams inauthenticity. They will silently judge it as intellectual laziness or an attempt to appear knowledgeable without actually being knowledgeable. Disregard for systems. Ignoring the quiet coffee shop line and heading straight to the counter is more than just rude to an INTJ. It's an attack on their inherent sense of order. They see systems everywhere, explicit and implicit, and appreciate when people adhere to them for fairness and efficiency. When someone blithely disregards a functional system, they'll silently conclude that you lack awareness, respect, or a basic understanding of collective efficiency. Hypocrisy in values. Preaching about work-life balance while texting your staff at midnight is a gaping chasm in character that INTJ sniff out instantly. Authenticity is a cornerstone of their value system, and they expect actions to align with stated beliefs. When they observe this hypocrisy, it erodes their trust. They see it as a lack of integrity and a performative display. They will remember it. Intellectual laziness. Dismissing reading while admitting to binge-watching hours of reality TV is a self-own that INTJ will permanently note. It's not about judging TV habits. It's about the explicit devaluing of intellectual pursuits. When someone actively disdains intellectual engagement while having ample time for passive consumption, it signals a lack of intellectual rigor. They'll silently categorize you as someone who has chosen stagnation. Got an INTJ friend whose piercing stare feels like a background fact-checker on your entire existence? Share this video with them. It might just be the validation they need for their silent suffering. And hey, maybe it'll even spark a surprisingly deep conversation. Goal ambiguity. If you can't articulate what finished looks like for a project, an INTJ sees a venture that will balloon forever, consuming resources without conclusion. They are master strategists who thrive on clear objectives and measurable outcomes. When you present a project with ill-defined ends, they immediately foresee scope creep, wasted effort, and ultimate failure. If you can't define success, they'll conclude you don't know how to achieve it. Emotional hostage situations. Crying to win a debate or using emotional manipulation to sway a decision is a desperate, unfair tactic to an INTJ. They believe intellectual arguments should be based on rational grounds. When emotions are weaponized to bypass logic, it's deeply disrespectful. They won't be swayed by tears if the underlying argument is flawed. Instead, they'll view it as manipulative and lose respect for your integrity. Status quo addiction. The 6 words, "we've always done it this way," are guaranteed to make an INTJ's internal gears grind to a halt. For them, always is not a justification, it's an invitation to innovate. They are constantly seeking improvement and optimization. When you cling to the status quo out of habit or fear, you directly clash with their core drive for progress. They'll judge your lack of foresight and unwillingness to embrace potential. Micro-inefficiency denial. 12 clicks when 2 could suffice? These aren't just minor quirks to an INTJ. They're tiny paper cuts on their psyche. They have an innate ability to spot inefficiencies, no matter how small, and an almost compulsive need to optimize. When you don't notice these or deny their importance, it's baffling. They see the cumulative waste of time and energy, and watching you fumble through the inefficient version is pure torture. Unsolicited shoulder taps. Interrupting an INTJ who is deep in focus for a non-urgent question is like yanking the power cord during a critical system update. It's a catastrophic disruption. INTJ thrive in a state of deep, uninterrupted concentration. When you break that focus for something trivial, you're forcing them to reboot their entire mental framework. They'll answer politely, but inside, they're calculating the lost productivity. Complacency celebration. Announcing, "I never change," with a proud grin is, to an INTJ, an alarming declaration of anti-growth. They are inherently driven by self-improvement and evolution. When someone celebrates their own static nature, it directly conflicts with an INTJ's core values. They perceive it as a fundamental lack of ambition and a comfortable retreat into stagnation. In their eyes, you are choosing obsolescence. So there you have it. INTJ aren't trying to be cruel or judgmental. They're simply running a highly sophisticated background algorithm that prioritizes logic, efficiency, authenticity, and competence. Every silent judgment is just another data point in their lifelong quest for understanding and optimal functionality in themselves and the world around them. If you recognize some of these patterns in yourself, don't sweat it. Awareness is the first patch update. Keep your reasoning tight, your promises tighter, and your curiosity switched on. Do that, and that INTJ respect won't just stay intact. It might even grow, evolving into a quiet but deeply valued intellectual camaraderie.